Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the summary for the day of 1136 to 1137 for the 4th to the 5th of April. So SITREP for the past 2 days. And we're going to start off with a missile strike report from the Russian Defense Ministry. They claim that on the 4th of April they have launched a precision strike at a restaurant because they hate food. And 85 so-called servicemen and officers of foreign countries and up to 20 vehicles was allegedly destroyed. So I wonder what hell of a precision strike is that to able to hit this many things with a single strike. So they say it's a high explosive missile. So very cryptic. So that happened. And so a lot of discussions, I think, among the people, particularly on the pro-Russian side, saying that maybe these are NATO officers and whatnot. Yeah, definitely sending a message for sure. So we will see how this goes. Whether there's any reaction from the West. Yeah, no, but usually there won't be because these are all clandestine, operations. We're not going to see much talked about this. If it's true, rest in peace for those that are sacrifice their life on this thing. Yeah, rather meaningless thing, but yeah. So we're gonna go on. We're gonna start off with Kursk front first. Over at the Kursk front, at the Sumy sector, there is some development. Russian forces have been geolocated in this southern part of Basivka, confirming the Russian advance at the eastern bank of Basivka. And if I'm not wrong, I saw that the Russian Defense Ministry have announced the capture of Basivka, if I'm not wrong. Let me take a look. Yeah. So the Russian Defense Ministry in today, just 2 hours ago, 2 hours ago from as per this recording, just announced. It's not noted on this map yet because I haven't mapped the reports for today. Because it's for tomorrow. But I did note all the geolocation. So Basivka is now announced to be captured by the Russian forces, which confirms that the Russians' intention to continue to expand the Sumy region, and as such, we are getting closer to the development of a Sumy front. We are definitely getting close to it. But I will not do it until the Russians recapture these 3 towns. Because with these 3 towns, it's still it's still Kursk front. But once these 3 towns is gone, then there's no more Kursk front to talk about. So these 3 regions clearly, of course, still being fought over. Russian forces still attacking Oleshnya, Goyevo, as well as Gornau. At Goyevo, the Russian forces raised the flag in the center of Goyevo to signal, their presence to the Ukrainians, and I think the Ukrainians can't do anything about it. This is, as I always say, this is a very difficult geography to fight on, so we just have to wait and see how this develops. In the rear positions along the road of death, the Yunakivka road of death continues to claim victims. So yet another geolocation of Ukrainian vehicle getting hit by FPV drone. I'm calling this the road of death because there's just way too many geolocations of a Ukrainian vehicle getting hit, and they just keep coming, and the Russians keep sending FPV drone there. So it's getting a bit stupid already. Over in the Belgorod incursion, Belgorod, right? Yeah, Belgorod incursion. Yeah, it's so not important to the point. I almost forgotten what's the oblast here. The Russian forces attack Mariupolsky. So Mariupolsky is here. The alleged attack, maybe it's just some shelling. Geolocation of artillery getting hit near Malazhrbitsky. Otherwise, Ukrainians tentatively should still have position at Popovka and Demidovka. There doesn't seem to be any change in the situation in this sector. Haven't said anything about it, but the Ukrainians are also not attacking. It looks like they are lacking the capability to attack further out from this sector. Off Petrushivka, Bradley was hit by FPV drone. Clearly, the Ukrainians have some good equipment in this sector. So, man, that's all here. Krasnopila is mentioned by the Russians to be shelled, but that's all. So that's all from the Kursk front. Over at the Kharkiv front, as usual, this is a quiet front. We only have fighting reported at Voschansk. The skirmishes at Voschansk continue. This is nothing burger. Like I said, this is just like a flattened city. Nothing really much is happening. It's like Stalingrad. If you look at the history of Stalingrad, for a long period of time, nothing is happening there. It's just skirmishes. So over at the Voreshna front. So this is Voreshna, and this is the Voreshna front. And over in the northern flank of the Voreshna at the Kamyanka, the Battle of Kamyanka has gotten worse for the Ukrainians. So first thing first, I've reported all this in the frontline changes report. So you probably should know a bit about this. Russian forces have been geolocated in south of Kamyanka. And so this was, I think, noted in the previous situation report. The latest frontline changes suggest the Russian forces have linked up the two bridgeheads on the north, in the east of Kamyanka as well in the south of Kamyanka. The Russian forces have linked up the two forces, and they now have a significant bridgehead in the eastern part of Kamyanka. So this frontline change is reported by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, and the Ukrainian Defense Ministry already acknowledged that the Russians are attacking this region. The Russian Defense Ministry kept mum about this. They do not talk about this at all. So the fighting in Kamyanka is now getting hotter. So important to note is that not just this bridgehead, there's another one in the south that the Russians have. So this could potentially cut off retreat or reinforcement route along this road. This other road leading northward is already cut off due to fire control. So yeah, Kamyanka is pretty surrounded at this moment. So we shall see how this continue to play out. Over in the Fyholivka region, okay, let's see, let me zoom out. Okay, in the north of Voreshna at Fyholivka, fighting is being reported according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, but that's only for one day, so it's probably just one off. Over in the south of Voreshna, Russian forces attacked Kulybivka as well as Kindrashivka. Multiple geolocation of Ukrainian forces was noted all over the place, with only this one in the south of the Patne. The Patne is here. Register any frontline change. But that is a very, very tiny one. If you have saw the frontline changes report, it's a very, very, very small frontline change in this area. Otherwise, there is like the Ukrainians in Kindrashivka, another one going towards Kalinove. So these two areas, there is still Ukrainian forces. So the battles are definitely still ongoing in this region here. We move on, and before I move on, of course, as usual, press the like button, register yourself commander at the like, and of course, for those that have not subscribed, subscribe. If you have subscribed, check. Make sure that you are not unsubscribed secretly by our enemies. That also pays me. So and also happy birthday to those that are having birthday today. And at Kupiansk, we only have fighting reported at Petropavlivka. So there's only one report there. At Podoli, there is a geolocation of explosion of Ukrainian ammunition dump, and that's all. We move on to the Borova front. At the Borova front, things starting to get a little bit busy again with the restart of the battles over in the east at Nadia, Novoserhievka, and Novoyehorivka. So we have this area have been quiet for a bit of time, so now they have the restart of the fighting. Zarizove and Novokrolyakivka continue to be mentioned, so that's the fighting situation in Borova. We move on from Borova front over the Liman front. So this is Liman, and this is the Liman front. Northern flank is here. So at the northern flank, we have a lot of fighting being reported in the past 2 days. Fighting is reported at Kharkivka, Ohivka, Novolyubivka, Novomikhailivka, Katerinivka, Norvey, as well as Zelena Dolena. So it looks like the Russians, after the successes. After regrouping, it looks like they are now pushing again. So we shall see whether this will develop into any kind of a capture for the Russian forces. Ukraine forces was noted, the artillery system was noted west of Lipoe. So that's happened. So and this is also peculiar because the artillery systems looks really close to the front line, 6 kilometers. So it looks, it's just my hypothesis. It looks like the early war, no super long range, like 20 kilometers artillery is no longer available. Like because nowadays the artillery system seems to be hit like at most 10 kilometers away from the front line. Like they are really close to the front line as per early war. They have a lot of artillery systems and a very advanced one that allows them to fire from a very long range with those long range artillery shells. It looks like they are now all getting a bit nearer. But it's just my observation, might be wrong, who knows. So over in the Sivers front, there's nothing in the southern flank of Liman front. At the Sivers front, fighting is reported at Bilohorivka, at Verkhomokonjamske. No more fighting reported in the southern area. Maybe this operation has failed to break through. So they're still operating in this area here. But as usual, as I always say, this is a very difficult front line for the Russians. So no, there's limited progress in this sector. At Sivers itself, there's a Russian airstrike. Feb 3000 was hit on Ukrainian position in Sivers, but that's all we have over here. We move on to the Bakhmut front. So this is Bakhmut city. You can see it's not loading. I wonder whose fault is that? It's Russia's fault. Okay, I turned off some apps and additional browser tabs so that maybe those tabs are secretly sending information to CIA. So I turn them off so that the FSB will get it. So anyway, at Bakhmut front, this is Bakhmut city. The fighting is mainly over in these two regions only, at Kharkovivka and Chasiv. Freaking hell, it's not loading. I need to refresh. Give me a second. Yep. So this Kharkovivka and Chasiv. Otherwise in the south there is fighting reported in Kudyumivka. So it's not working, it's still so laggy. So at Kudyumivka there's some fighting in this region. Nothing much was noted. Over in the Thorax front. Over the Thorax front, this is Thorax, this is New York. So we generally cut this like this. In the Thorax front itself, the strategic situation remains largely the same. Fighting is reported at Dashny, Dilievka, Krimsky, Battle of Thorax happening. There's fighting reported at Zabalka, Leonidivka, and towards Katerinivka. So very complicated sets of arrows, but the over at Zabalka, Ukrainian mapping have acknowledged the Russian forces have taken more grounds around Zabalka, so that changes the front line. A very, very rare front line change over the Thorax front because most of the front line was already covered by geolocations, and all the small changes made by Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source, does not register on our map because those are all, like if you look at their map, everything is gray zone, like the whole of Thorax. If you think Thorax, like the gray zones are all Russian taken or there's no Ukrainian forces there, then the whole of Thorax is actually Russian control. But they use the gray zone and that makes things very complicated. They make all these small changes, but you can't really tell what's the difference largely. So over in the New York sector, shelling is reported at Zoria as well as Stara Mykolaievka, rear positions. But it does show a signal of intent. Shelling of rear positions usually precedes a major assault in this direction because this will cause chaos. Ukrainians will not be able to organize and defense easily to the front line, and then the Russians can have some kind of advantage in the front line. That tends to be the case. Over in the front line itself, there is fighting reported at Sukabalka, Valentinivka, as well as at Oleksandropil. Oleksandropil itself, the Russian Defense Ministry, after 2 days after we have declared the capture, on the 4th, have announced the capture of Rozhevka, which is actually the other name for Oleksandropil. So the Russian forces have claimed the capture of Oleksandropil. And of course, our mapping already acknowledged that's the case. So the battles continue. This time around, the Russians are trying to capture the other two settlement of this chain of villages. So that's all in this sector. The capture of all these things, of course, will fully secure the New York column. So over here. So we move on to the Pokrov front. This is Pokrov. This is the Pokrov front. And we go on to the northern flank. In the northern flank, we have fighting reported at Tarasivka as well as Yelizaveta. Nothing particularly special about this. The Russians doesn't seem to be breaking out from this area, so nothing works for now. Very, very contested. Over in the Minokhrad sector, there is a mention of Novo-Ekonomichny. This is mentioned by the Russians. This caught probably just some shelling. Not very important, too far away from the front line to matter for us. Over at the Minokhrad sector, Minokhrad is here. This is Pokrov. Fighting is reported at Basivka, Shevchenko, towards Pokrov, and Vilfrove. But that's all. Nothing much here. There is no more clarification of what the hell is happening in these Ukrainian offensive or operational regions. So we just have to wait for more intel. Went rather quieter, I think. Over the Pokrov sector, there is fighting reported at Kotline, Udashne, Uspenivka, Novo-Alexandrivka. And Murovka was mentioned. It's mentioned it will be something further in the south, part of the southern flank. The Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Uspenivka as well. We do not have the mapping to back this just yet. So our mapping Uspenivka is still largely contested, but the Russian Defense Ministry announced the capture of Uspenivka, which is highly plausible because the Russians have a stronger position in this area here. So let's wait and see. Over in the southern flank, so you can see Muravka as mentioned. The Russians are attacking in that direction. They are not at Muravka yet. Fighting is reported at Netievka, Kotlyarivka, and Bodanivka. So that's all for now. It went quieter compared to previously. And we go on to the next front line is over at the Andreyevka front. So this is the Andreyevka front. The Battle of Andreyevka continues. There's fighting reported towards Oleksievka, fighting at Konstantinopel and at Rozliv. Geolocation of Russian forces in the north of Andreyevka confirmed the Russians have made some expansion of their regions in the north. Very successful in that sense. Traveled around 1 kilometer. So pretty significant. Geolocation of a Ukrainian tank. Successful defeat by the Russians of the tank of Ukraine, correct. The Ukrainian tank was hit north of Rozliv or east of Bahati was noted. And another geolocation is the Kozak armored vehicle also getting hit much more further away off Novo-Ukrainka. So the situation remains largely the same, with Russia mainly capturing a bit of grounds and slowly grinding backwards in a forward retreat, and the Ukrainians are attacking in the backwards fashion. So moving on to the Velika Novosilka front. So this Velika Novosilka, and the fighting here is limited. Fighting is reported at Oradne, Bulatske, Vinipole, and Novosilka. Geolocation of a pickup getting hit by a Krasnopol, which is a guided artillery at Shevchenko was noted, but otherwise, it went quiet again after the Russians' success at Vasily. And we move on to the Zaporizhia front. At the Zaporizhia front, the Russians continue their Zaporizhia offensive. At the Orekhiv sector, this Orekhiv, fighting is reported at Novoporovka, Malatomashka, and at Novoandrievka. There is geolocation of an artillery system getting hit by FPV drone at Orekhiv. So that's all. And one last, and the other sector over the Zaporizhia front is over the Kamyanka sector. The Kamyanka sector, similarly, Russian forces continue the offensive, fighting at Mali Shebaki, Stepove, Lobkove, and Ukrainian mapping have acknowledged the Russians have retaken the southern half of Kamyanka successfully. And while the Russians continue to hammer the Ukrainian forces with FPV drone in the northern half of Kamyanka. So, and there, the Russians also straightened the front line a little bit over at Mali Shabaki. So that's the situation. The Russians are still actively attacking at the Zaporizhia front. And we move on to the Kherson front. No reports is reported over here, and for the past 2 days. So that's all. So so this is there's also a massive missile and drone strike over the past 24 hours by the Russian side, and Kiev was hit, and multiple other locations is hit as well. It's unknown what is the target for now, I think, because some buildings was hit, civilians was allegedly hurt, and I'm not entirely sure what was the military target there. So anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.